Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today on this video we're going to show you what we did to the boat from when we bought it to what it is now. So let's go and have a look. Hi, I'm Kayleigh and this is Stephen, and along with our two dogs, Hugo and Coco, we live full-time on board our 37-foot narrowboat, Grayswood. After living nearly 2 years in our self-converted campervan, we decided we needed more space. We spent 6 weeks renovating the insides before moving on board full-time. Follow us on our narrowboat journey where we will show you what it's really like living on the English waterways whilst having full-time jobs. Subscribe and welcome aboard. Grayswood is a 37-foot narrowboat built by Piper Boats in 2001. She was originally fitted out by Aston Marina. She has a cruiser stern and a traditional layout. The cabin length is 24 foot and that leaves us with outside space of 13 foot. She has a width of 6 foot 10 and a head height of 6 foot 4. She is small and compact but has everything that we need.
Right, so when we bought the boat we did identify a few key areas that needed working on straight away, and these were, first of all, the water tank needed to be usable because when you turned the tap on you had brown water coming out of it. Second job we wanted to do quite high on our list was fit central heating and radiators, because the boat only had the heating from a multi-fuel stove and we could only heat the water from running the engine, so we wanted to fit a diesel heater so we could heat radiators and heat hot water without running the engine. And the third thing, because obviously we're going to be living on the boat, we wanted to make the bathroom more functional because all it was a mouldy shower tray and a porta potty. So yeah, we got to work on those.
Before we bought the boat, we had to have it surveyed. It had to be lifted out of the water for this to happen. The surveyor pointed out that having cockles growing on the bottom was actually a good thing. You can see from the pictures that we needed a baffle plate welded onto the weed hatch because this would reduce the engine's performance. Damage to the prop on impact, you can see in the pictures that the end of the prop is actually missing. The surveyor said that it wasn't too much of a big deal this time, but the next time we take the boat out of the water we may need to replace it. We kept the boat out of the water for 6 weeks whilst we did an upgrade to the insides, and she was also blacked and fitted with 4 new anodes.
So Grayswood has roughly a 200 litre water tank at the front of a boat like most narrowboats do. These types of water tanks need to be repainted every 5 years, but we weren't sure when Grayswood's tank was last clean, if it even had ever been. So that was obviously high on our list to get done. When we first opened the lid, I had to pretty much drill out most of the bolts because the plus gas wasn't moving them, and it did only move about 2 or 3 bolts within the first half hour trying, so I just drilled them all out and retapped them. So when we first opened the lid we was a bit worried that the tank may not be usable, as you can see from the photo, but thankfully the bitumen that was in there had seemed to have done its job of protecting the steel underneath, and so it just looked a lot worse than it was. So we, when I say that I mean me, had to climb into the tank and clean it for a few days once it had dried out. That consisted of going in with a drill and a wire brush and a scraper, which I ended up breaking 3 of them, and just moving and cleaning out all the sediment that is in there. And we was relieved once all that was gone that the entirety of the tank inside was in good shape. Once I'd done that, I did third hand a few areas just to cure a few areas of rust. There's only a little bit of it. But once the third hand was done, again following the process of third hand, just wash away the dust, and then I repainted it with a water grade bitumen paint.
We knew when we bought the boat that we needed to upgrade our calorifier to a twin coil if we wanted to have more than one way of heating hot water, instead of the single coil that the boat currently had. This was pointed out to us by the surveyor.
Right, so what we done, we went out and we purchased a new Shore Cal calorifier. When we installed it, we did also install a header tank for radiators as well, because like we say, it's a twin coil one. Unfortunately though, with the header tank for the radiators, to Kayleigh's dismay, we didn't have space to fit the header tank inside a cupboard in the boat, so it's actually on the outside on the on the cruiser stern. When fitting the new calorifier, myself with the help of my dad, we also fit a Webasto Thermotopsy diesel heater in the engine bay, so that, you know, we've now got 3 ways of heating our hot water. So we've got the engine running, we've got a diesel heater, and there's also an immersion on the calorifier. So thanks a lot for my dad helping with that. I'm sure he spent quite a fair few hours at his boat sweating and swearing. Got the boat, the bathroom obviously needed to be made usable, but what the pictures and the video don't show is how rotten the shower tray was and the awful smell of the damp and mould that is in there. So we decided the only way that we could find out what was causing the smell in the bathroom was to knock it down and rebuild it. So it's a good job we did that, as the wood below the bathroom window was completely rotten, so the leak had been getting in, and there was a small leak on the shower which had rotted the floor underneath as well.
Having lived in the campervan for 2 years using a cassette toilet, we know we definitely didn't want this type of toilet. We spent a lot of time debating which toilet we should fit. It's a hot topic amongst boaters. We wanted to make sure that our boat was as off-grid and free of chemicals as possible. So we decided that we would go with the composting toilet, and we fit the Nature's Head composting toilet. It's actually quite large, the toilet is, and bulky, so we redesigned the bathroom around where the toilet would be positioned.
Alright, so the previous bathroom did have a small sink in it, but the small sink was in an overly large cupboard. So what we've done, we moved the toilet to where the sink previously was, and we used the outlet for the sink for the airflow of the toilet. And we found a smaller sink and vanity cupboard to replace the sink over the other side of the bathroom. It's just like one you'd normally find in the house, as it fitted in the space, because we wanted quite a large shower. Originally we was going to put some glass around the shower, but we couldn't find anything suitable for it because our shower is actually up against a gunnel. But we just fitted a shower curtain instead, and it works quite well, and it actually makes the bathroom seem a bit bigger when the shower curtain's open, so it makes it nice and inviting.
We fitted 2 storage shelves in the bathroom as well, just to organise the space a bit better. So there's one above the sink and there's one beside where the toilet is.
And we obviously got ourselves a nice little porthole mirror as well, because our boat doesn't have a porthole on it, but now we've got one.
When we were doing work to the boat, we noticed that our plugs were getting really hot. We took apart the 240-volt socket in the kitchen and realised the plug was wired backwards. The positive was into the negative and vice versa. We rewired the plugs and upgraded them to more modern sockets with USB ports.
We also fitted 2 additional 240 plug sockets. So one was at the other side of the kitchen for appliances, and there was a single opposite the bathroom, so Kayleigh could use hair dryers, hair straighteners, etc. I mean, I'd use a hairdryer, but I don't have enough hair to do that anyway. And one of the other 240-volt plugs was at the door as you first come in. Now, it was right flush up to the cupboard. What that meant was you couldn't actually plug a plug into it, so we had to move that as well. So all our plugs were replaced with flush mounted ones. Just use a multi-tool to cut a hole in the wall and just flush mounted them instead. It's obviously made the boat look a lot neater in our opinion, and the USBs help us a lot. When we had our camper van, we did fit some 12-volt USB chargers above the shelf in the bedroom, and we did find this worked really well, so we decided to replicate it on the boat. So on these plug sockets we charge our phones, Kindles, but it's quite a nice one to have quite so close to the driving part of the boat as well, because say if our phones are dying, we can just step in and charge them quickly, and they're quite accessible if it is.
One of the more useful upgrades that we did to the boat was we replaced all of the bulky individual switch on and off lights with 12-volt LED lights. We also wired these to a switch, so it's more like a house. So when you come in the front door, you can turn on the living room with the kitchen switch, and then there's also a separate switch for the bedroom. We sanded the boat with 80 and 120 grit and repainted in a white and grey scheme throughout. The traditional darker woods and brass isn't really our style, and we wanted a home that felt more modern, light and airy.
Obviously doing this took quite a while. I don't fancy doing it to a 57-foot boat, because doing it on a 37-foot boat did take quite a few days of sanding and prep for the painting. Obviously, as most people probably know, your painting job is all about the prep. If you want it to last, you prepare it.
We were glad when we were able to do the sanding and painting that we didn't have to live on the boat while we did this. We still had our campervan at the time, and we're so thankful for that because of the dust and the mess. It took us ages to clean up all the leftovers from the sanding.
Right, one thing you may have noticed watching this video is we both keep looking down, and that's because both the dogs are currently up on the settee with us and they're curled up. I don't know how Hugo's lying here. He's currently sandwiched between both me and Kayleigh, and Coco's doing a normal thing and taking up every single cushion in the house.
In front of the fire. In
front of the fire and smiling. So yeah. When we came to upgrading the kitchen, we did just, again, like in the bathroom, we ripped most of it out. We kept the cupboards because obviously we just wanted to repurpose what we had, but it was almost a complete refit on it. So we replaced the worktop, the sink, the tap, redone a fair bit of the plumbing in there, and we removed the drawer entirely and replaced it with a larger fridge freezer. With the help of my dad, who's a gas fitter, he came and moved the gas pipe for us because it currently ran along the top of the worktop, but we wanted to hide it by going down through the worktop. So he came out and moved that for us and fit an isolation valve underneath the sink, but he also fit a more accessible isolation valve outside the boat as well, should the gas need to be turned off. Obviously we're taking the drawer out, we removed one of our storage solutions, but Kayleigh, being Kayleigh, came up with loads of great storage ideas which involved the walls of the boat. So that was a trip to IKEA to get a knife rack, a utensil rack. The plate rack was already on the boat, but we just moved it over to the other side so we could fit the utensil rack close in the kitchen area.
I think it's worth mentioning as well that on all the cupboard doors, we used the existing doors and repainted them and just fitted them with more modern handles, and that worked really well. It saved us from binning all the wood and getting new wood. The living room stayed mostly the same. We kept the cushions and the covers as they were in really good condition and fitted in with the theme of the boat. We removed one of the underseat cupboards when we first came onto the boat with the dogs. They went straight under there, so we thought that would actually be a good place to store their beds and their toys. Just because they're quite small dogs, they like to have a space that they feel safe and they don't want people, walking over them and things. So it's a nice area for them, and it keeps the boat nice and tidy.
Right, so again, the bedroom is quite similar to the living room. We didn't have to replace much in there. In fact, the biggest job that we've done in the bedroom was replacing the chlorifier, because that's actually underneath the bed in what we like to refer as a coffin, because it's just a weird shape underneath the bed. But one thing we did do is we built a bed extension. So the bed extension slides out, we got ourselves a new mattress, and it makes the bed a lot more comfortable, because I weigh about 1,500 stone, so
we're both of the fuller figures, so we need a big bed.
Yeah, sleeping on a single and a half bed, it's not very comfortable, and yeah, we just wanted a bit more space. I do wonder
if we went a bit far though, because now we have bigger than a Super King, so the bed is huge.
Yeah, I actually have to roll 4 times to get to Kayleigh.
So you would have already seen in our previous videos if you've seen them. If you haven't, go back and check them out for the engine bay and the back deck. We cleaned up our engine bay and repainted it. And we also did the same to the back deck. And we're really happy with how those two areas turned out.
Right, so as we mentioned earlier, not all jobs are actually finished to the boat yet, so this is just a bit of a summary of what we have left to do to the boat.
Our future projects.
Yeah, our future projects. My future projects, not our future projects. The projects that Stephen do that Kayleigh benefits from. So, one thing we're going to do is fit solar. I think that's top of our agenda because that's what will make us more off-grid. Because like Kayleigh works on the boat a lot. And obviously with everything that's been going on with the lockdown, I've been working from the boat. So we need to be able to have that freedom to work from where we want on the network. At the moment we have to work, on 240 volt plug up because it's
we don't have an inverter and we need to be able to charge our laptops and obviously run the coffee machine that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, thank you.
So we need solar and we need a 3 kilowatt inverter to be able to live completely off grid.
And to make this possible, because obviously a 3 kilowatt inverter will draw quite a lot of power. Like we said, we're going to increase our battery bank to 4 leisure batteries, not 3, sorry, and 1 starter. And when that happens, actually before that happens, I'll be rewiring the electrics in the engine bay because they are a bit like the spaghetti junction in there at the moment.
Also need to paint the front deck because at the moment that's still the old green colour. So that's an upcoming project. We are also thinking about building into the front deck and possibly the back deck some storage lockers, just to be able to more neatly store things that we can lock and better secure than the plastic boxes we have at the moment. And I've actually just thought of another project. We need to fit drawers underneath the bed. We had a big cupboard that just got cluttered and it wasn't easy to find things, so that we can store our clothes a bit easier.
Yep, so that'll be a video in future for you, as will all the other projects. So if you have any questions about the renovations we've done, because I'm sure we've just blitzed over it, there'll be parts that we've missed out. But like I say, if you have any questions about what we've done to the boat or what we plan to do with the boat, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. We hope you've enjoyed this video.
Yeah, like Steve said, let us know in the comments below what you think of the renovations, if you have any questions about the boat, or if there's anything that we have missed out or possibly are doing wrong, because we're just going with what we think. We don't have that too much experience other than fitting our campervan ourselves. That was a big learning curve. And that's what's allowed us to take on this project of doing the boat and being comfortable with the electrics and the wood and sanding and painting and things. Yeah, so give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Yep. See you in my next video.